Hello students, welcome to my class. So far we had studied about how oxygen is being stored or transported in our body or even in the body of different other organism, and what are the different proteins that do this work. Next, we are moving on to the next topic, which talks about how metal is stored in our body or the body of different organism and how it's being transported, and what are the various proteins that are involved in the transportation of metal ions. Okay, so we are starting with ferritin, which is one of the very important protein. It is an iron storage protein, so it is used for the storage of iron in the body. So it is distributed in the various organs, especially it is found in liver, spleen, and the bone marrow. And it also occurs in the human placenta, that is it releases the iron that is required for the developing fetus. We have already studied the importance of iron and how it is required for the growth and development of different organism. So ferritin is that protein which can store iron in it, and it is also released from the mother to the fetus. It is present in the human placenta of the mother, where it is released to the developing fetus. So, what is the structure of ferritin? The major two components of ferritin is it has a core which is nothing but ferric hydroxyphosphate, that is a composition of the core, and then that core is surrounded by a protein sheath, and that protein sheath is called as a apoferritin. So ferritin has a central core where there is ferric hydroxyphosphate, and then it is covered by a protein sheath which is called as a apoferritin. And this sheath is lipophilic, meaning to say it is lipid loving. So because of that, it makes the Fe3 complex that is present in the core soluble in the biological fluid, because this sheet that is covering the main core is lipophilic in nature. And so now you know that iron atoms, they are present in the core and they are in the form of Fe plus 3. Okay. And ferritin, each ferritin molecule, it might contain about 12 to 20% of iron. That is around 2000 to 4,000 atoms of iron may be present in one molecule of ferritin. And ferritin, it can be also considered to be a micelle. Micelle is nothing but it is like an aggregate of molecules. It's like a cluster of different molecules coming together. Okay, so ferritin occurs like a micelle. This is a structure of the ferritin. You can see that it is like a clumped, cluster of different molecules crumpled up together. So that's why you can also consider it to be a micelle. And the ferritin core ion is deposited as Fe2O3.XH2, meaning to say this is a composition of the iron core, that is ferric hydroxyphosphate. So this composition, it is similar to that of the composition of rust. And the high spin Fe3 centers, you know that iron in the iron core is present in the form of plus 3 oxidation state. These iron, they undergo strong antiferromagnetic coupling because there are a lot of iron atoms that are present in plus 3 oxidation state, correct? So they undergo antiferromagnetic coupling. And the hydroxide and phosphate groups that are present in the group, the core, they help to balance the charge. And also, they also help in binding the core to the protein surface. So, along with iron, there are hydroxides as well as phosphates in the core. What do they do? What are the two functions? One is they balance the charge, plus they also help in binding the core to the protein surface. So what are the three units in the structure? Definitely there's an iron core which is present in the center, and then there is a protein interface, that is wherein the core and the protein are attached. That interface is there, and then there is a protein coat next to the interface. So, in the core, the ion concentration may reach around 0.25 mole per dm cube. And iron, you know that in the core, it is present as ferric, that is Fe plus 3, but some of them may also be present in Fe plus 2, that is ferrous iron form. Initially, actually, what happens when this protein it stores the iron, it stores it in the core in the form of Fe plus 3, but actually it was in Fe plus 2 form which gets then converted into Fe plus 3 and stored. So during this process, some of the iron atom may also be present in ferrous form, that is Fe plus 2 form. Okay. And what is the function of ferritin? What does it do? You know that it is an iron storage protein. So it supplies iron for intracellular use in the biosynthesis of ferritin protein. That is, whenever in any part of the body, if there is requirement of iron for any type of enzyme activation or any reaction to take place, ferritin supplies that iron. And then also it takes up iron for long term storage. So in any process, if iron is given out, or when you're eating consuming some iron content food and it is going into your intestine where it is being absorbed, then it is being stored in your ferritin protein, and also it does the detoxification of excess of iron. So these are the three important functions of ferritin protein. And during the ferritin formation, Fe plus 2 or Fe2 is oxidized to Fe3, because you know that in the ferritin core iron is stored in the form of Fe plus 3. So what actually happen in the body, Fe plus 2 will be present, which is oxidized to Fe3. This is done by oxidation. So oxygen is required, and this reaction is catalyzed by the protein sheath, which is a apoferritin. So apoferritin catalyzes this oxidation reaction of Fe plus 2 to be converted to Fe plus 3. Now let's understand more about the ferritin structure. The apoferritin sheath. So far we studied about the core where there is Fe plus 3 ions present in the center, and its composition also we understood. But what about the sheath that is covering it? Now this is the structure of ferritin. The central core is present somewhere in middle and it is covered by this sheath. So this sheath consists of 24 subunits of coiled polypeptide chains. These are the coiled polypeptide chain. So such 24 subunits are present of each polypeptide chain, and it looks cylindrical in structure. So these polypeptide chains, such subunits are 24 in number, which completely cover the central core. So you cannot see the central core at all. The entire central core is surrounded by these 24 subunits of the polypeptide chains, and these subunits they are arranged in the outer surface. And this ferritin micelle, it looks like approximately like a spherical structure. So you can see how these subunits are clinched onto the surface and they make the protein look spherical in structure. The structural features, now we are studying about these individual subunits of the polypeptide chain. Of the two ends of the cylindrical apoferritin subunits are different. They are telling us that these two ends of the single subunit, they have different structural features. So you see here, one end is named as N, one end is named as E. So that is telling us that the structural feature of all these two ends of each of the subunit is different. So one end is designated as N. What does N mean? N here refers to polar N-terminal end of the protein, and the other end is referred to as E. E meaning to say non-polar end. So N is telling us that this is the polar end. E is telling us that it is a non-polar end of the polypeptide chain. And the 24 subunits of the apoferritin, they are arranged on the spherical surface in such a fashion that at such eight places, three subunits they meet together, meet with their n ends to form a polar channel through which ion can be transferred in or out. So here can you see that three of the subunits, the n part of the n end of the channel of three of the subunits, they meet together. When three n channels meet together, there is a polar channel. It is like a pipeline to the outside through which iron can be brought inside, that is to the central core, or it can be taken out, because obviously this is a spherical surface. From somewhere there should be a way for iron to come in and go out, correct? So like this, there are 8 different places in a single protein where 3 of the ends they meet together and they form a polar channel for the ion to go in or out. Also, these E ends, like same way like how N ends meet, can you see here E ends? So there are 6 non-polar channels that is formed by meeting of 4 subunits with their E ends. So can you see 4 E ends they are meeting? So here there is a formation of a non-polar channel, but what exactly is its function is not known yet. Okay. So, when it is required, ferritin releases the ion. Through which does it release the ion? It releases through this polar channel that is formed by n subunits meeting together, and it releases the ion by how? Now, ion is present in +3 oxidation state. So, whenever it is releasing the ion, there is reduction of Fe+3 to Fe+2. Whenever there is a requirement, ion is being released. So ferritin was a type of iron storage protein. Next, we are studying about transferrin, which is another important type of protein. So what is the function of transferrin? It is a carrier type of protein. So it is an carrier of iron. So transferrin family, they are majorly divided into different subcategories. So these are some 4 important subcategories. One is serum transferrin. So as the name tells, it is present in the serum. Okay. uh, Serum of vertebrates and also in some other biological fluids, and its vital role is definitely transportation of iron within the circulatory system of the vertebrates and within different biological tissues. Next is lactotransferrin. So from the name, it tells that it is present in mammalian milk. It is seen in all the mammals who feed their younger ones, and it is present in mammalian milk, and it is required for transport of iron from the mother to the fetus or the babies. Next, transferrin. It is commonly found in oviduct secretion, and it is also seen in the eggs of the birds. So it is very important for the development of the eggs and different, egg laying mammals or different birds which lay egg. So it is required for the development as well as the immunity of the eggs. Okay, and the baby growing within the eggs. And next is melanotransferrin, that is melanin, that is it is present in different cell surface protein. Okay, and it plays a very important role in cell proliferation and migration and some different functions. Okay, so next is what is the structure of transferrin. So where is transferrin produced? It is mainly produced in your liver cells, and then it is secreted into the plasma, or then it is sent to the blood, where it is produced in the liver and then being sent to the blood to function. And what is the main function? It is a transport of iron from absorption center to the site of utilization. That is, it is telling us that it helps to transport iron from a place where it is stored, like maybe like a protein like ferritin that stores iron. From there, it is taken to the site where it is required. Okay, and it is also required for hemoglobin degradation. It also plays key role in cell division as well as erythropoiesis. And apoferritin, this is structure schematic representation. You need to know to draw the diagram of each of these proteins. So this is a structure of transferrin. So apotransferrin, there also you studied about apoferritin. Now apotransferrin, what does it mean? It means that it is a sheet that is covering the central metal atom or central metal that is present or stored in the center. So this is the sheath that is called as protein without metal. It is called as apotransferrin. So it has two binding sites, and if it binds to Fe3 so tightly that it is difficult to remove the metal. Even here, iron is present in +3 oxidation state, and it is so tightly bound to this protein sheet that it is very difficult to remove this metal. And this apoferritin or the protein sheath, it has a molecular mass of 8 into 10 to the power 4 daltons, and in transferrin, Fe3, the central metal, is bound octahedrally to 6 binding sites. You can see that Fe3 is present in the center, and surrounding it is this apoferritin sheath, and this Fe3 is bound having 6 binding sites: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, and the carbonyl ion is sandwiched between the ion and cationic sites of the protein. So you can see there's a carbonyl ion here. Here also there's a carbonyl group that is present. Okay, so this group is like sandwiched between this ion atom and this cationic sites of the protein. Okay, and Fe3 is reduced to Fe2 whenever this happens, that is Fe3 whenever it undergoes reduction to Fe2, this protein loses affinity for that, and then it is being released. So this is a mechanism of releasing iron to the utilization center wherever it was required, because you know that this is held very strongly by the apotransferrin. Whenever it is supposed to be released at whichever side, there is a conversion of Fe2 to Fe3. Similarly, if it has to take a new Fe from different receiving sites, like in case of ferritin, if it has to receive Fe from ferritin, there is oxidation of ferrous to ferric that is taking place, and this oxidation, it is catalyzed by ceruloplasmin. Next, we are studying about another protein, that is ceruloplasmin. We already studied previously that this oxidation of ferrous to ferric, it is catalyzed by this protein, that is ceruloplasmin. Other than this, it is, what is its function? It is a blue colored protein. It has a molecular mass of around 130 kilodalton. And what is its function? It is responsible for the circulation of copper ions in the blood of the mammals. Okay, so there previously we studied about how iron is atom is being stored and circulated. So ceruloplasmin, it is responsible for the transport of copper ions in the blood of the mammals. So human ceruloplasmin, it consists of 4 polypeptide chain, and number of Cu atoms per ceruloplasmin protein can be around 7 plus or minus 1. So that is how much copper one ceruloplasmin can carry. And out of this, 40% of the copper atoms are paramagnetic in nature, and this is a multi copper protein, and it consists of not just one type of copper. Depending upon the oxidation state or structure of the copper atoms, it has three different types of copper, that is type 1 copper, type 2 copper, and type 3 copper. So it contains 2 type 1 copper, 1 type 2 copper, and 4 type 3 copper. And out of these three, the type 3, they are said to be diamagnetic. The reason is that there is antiferromagnetic coupling interaction that is seen. And rest all of them, that is type 1 and type 2, they are paramagnetic in nature. And the molecular weight of each of the ceruloplasmin and the protein chain, it will vary from one species to another. In different mammals, the molecular weight of the ceruloplasmin will keep varying, and this protein, that is ceruloplasmin, it is synthesized in the liver, same way how transferrin is synthesized, it is being synthesized in the liver. And what is its main function? It is responsible for storage as well as transportation of copper. And the removal of copper from this protein gives you an apoprotein, which can be made into active protein by, once again, addition of copper ion. So what is apoprotein, students? We came across this in the previous two as well. Apoprotein is nothing but the outer protein sheath, and when there is the absence of the central metal like iron or copper, then that is called as an apoprotein. So if you remove copper ions from the ceruloplasmin, it is nothing but an apoprotein, which is inactive, which does not have any function. Only when the copper ions go and sit in the center, it becomes active in function, and copper is present in +2 oxidation state. So in the cells, the copper, how is copper stored in the cells? It is stored in metallothionein. And in the plasma, that is in your blood, ceruloplasmin takes up the copper and does the work of transportation. Also, ceruloplasmin can transfer the copper ions to serum albumin. That is also one of the protein that is present in the blood, which also can carry copper ions in the blood. And this, other than all of this, that is transportation and storage of copper, it also does one more important function, that is, as we studied previously, it catalyzes the oxidation of ferrous ions to give ferric in the presence of oxygen, that is required for storage of iron in transferrin. Okay. Next, body copper storage, the main protein that stores copper in your body, it is the ceruloplasmin. And Wilson's disease is because of the deficiency of ceruloplasmin. So what happens in this disease is there is accumulation of excess of copper in your brain and liver. Reason for this is that there is deficiency of ceruloplasmin, because of which ceruloplasmin's function is to take up this excess copper and detoxify it, or take it out of your body, or circulate this copper, correct? But because there is less amount of ceruloplasmin protein in your body, there is accumulation of copper in brain and liver, and this can also lead to central nervous system damage or hepatitis or formation of brown or green ring in the cornea of the eyes and different neurological problems. Okay. Next, we're talking about electron transfer protein. So far we talked about how metal ions get transported across the plasma or the blood. Next, electron transfer that is required in different processes like photosynthesis, or also in different functions of mitochondria. So how does this electron transfer take place, and what are the different types of proteins that do this electron transfer? So one of the important type of protein that does the function of electron transfer is iron sulfur protein. These are non-heme protein. They contain both iron and sulfur, and they're called as ferredoxin. That is, Fe here stands for iron, and redoxin as in it is redox reagent. That is, it can do both oxidation reaction and as well as reduction reaction. So both of these reaction involve transfer of electrons. So it is classified as electron transfer protein. So they play an important role in electron transfer, and this is required in photosynthesis, mitochondrial respiration, and nitrogen fixation. You know that all these three processes, they require electron transfer. So this is done by iron sulfur protein. So it has two types of sulfur, that is, one is the cysteine sulfur and one is the inorganic sulfur, that is S2 minus is present. And inorganic sulfur here out of the two is labile, that is, it can be easily replaced and it can be easily removed by as H2S on acidification. Okay. So there are two types of sulfur. One is cysteine sulfur, one is inorganic sulfur. Out of that, inorganic sulfur is labile, that is, it can be easily replaced or removed on acidification. And it is represented as NFeMs. That is, here N denotes the number of Fe cations per molecule, that is per ion sulfur protein, how many Fe atoms are present. And S here stands for labile sulfur, and M denotes the number of labile sulfur sites. Okay. So here in all iron sulfur protein, FeX plus, the structure is approximately tetrahedral. Okay. And the Fe is surrounded by sulfur sites. And out of all the sulfur sites that surround the Fe, one of the sulfur, at least one, will be cysteine sulfur. And electron transport process, there's a couple that is working, that is Fe3 plus and Fe2 plus, which differ by one electron. So this couple works, and both oxidized and reduced form of the iron, it remains in high spin tetrahedral geometry. and the sulfur that is present, the sulfur binding sites, they are soft and they stabilize the lower oxidation state, that is Fe2 plus of this couple that is present. Next we'll study what are the different types of iron sulfur protein that are present. So the first type of the iron sulfur protein is the rubidoxin. It is 1Fe0S. That is, here when we are representing, we are writing about inorganic sulfur, not the cysteine sulfur. You can see that four cysteine sulfurs are present, but here when we are writing, we are referring only to inorganic sulfur. It has no inorganic sulfur. It actually has four cysteine sulfur and no inorganic sulfur, so it is 0S. So it is the simplest type. It is seen in bacteria and it is referred to as rubidoxin, and it has a molecular weight of 6 kilodalton and around 50 to 60 amino acid residues. And here the protein chain is folded. You can see it has a tetrahedral geometry, and there's a cavity where in the center of 4 cysteine sulfur in the tetrahedral geometry, you can see a cavity where the Fe2 plus or Fe it resides. Okay, and Fe can be present in 2 plus or 3 plus state. So they are generally giving it as Fex plus. And there's a couple that is involved, that is Fe3 plus and Fe2 plus. That is Fe does not have a proper oxidation state. It can be Fe2 plus or Fe3 plus. So it is always involved in this couple, in which both Fe3 plus and Fe2 plus they remain in high spin state, and the symmetry is tetrahedral. So you need to know some points as well as to draw the structure of this protein. So this was one type. The second type is ferredoxin, that is 2Fe2S. So 2S meaning to say there are two inorganic sulfur. That is, it is a binuclear moiety with two bridging inorganic sulfur. Can you see two sulfur atoms? So you can see two bridging inorganic sulfur, and here the two ion centers, they act as one electron transfer agent. So one electron is being transferred throughout, and in the oxidized form both the ions they are in +3 state, whereas what happens in the reduced form, one is in +3 state and one is in +2 state. And both in oxidized and reduced form, the ion centers they remain in high spin state, and there is a distorted tetrahedral symmetry. That is, it is not exactly tetrahedral, but a little distorted tetrahedral symmetry is present. And in oxidized form, diamagnetism arises, because you know that in oxidized form both of them are in +3 state. So quenching of the spin takes place, because of which there is diamagnetism. That is, there is no repulsion towards a magnetic field due to antiferromagnetic coupling interaction between the two Fe3 centers with the bridging sulfur sites. Because of these two centers interacting with the sulfur sites, there is diamagnetism. Whereas in reduced form, there is Fe3 plus and 2 plus. Because of the odd number of electrons, the complete quenching will not take place, because the number of electrons are differing in both the ion centers. So complete quenching does not take place, which gives rise to paramagnetic state in reduced form. Next is the risky center. This is similar to that of the ferredoxin, that is 2Fe2 plus 2S. What is the difference is, this protein belongs to the class that is 2Fe2S, which we already studied earlier, and the structure is also kind of similar. But here what happens, at least one of the Fe center, the cysteine sulfur binding sites are replaced by imidazole nitrogen sites of the histidine residue. So here previously you saw that they were cysteine sulfur. Even this side there is cysteine sulfur and cysteine sulfur. What happens here is, at least one or two sites are replaced by the nitrogens of the imidazole of the histidine residue. Okay, so that is the difference between the ferredoxin and the risky center. And ligation of these non-sulfur binding sites, because of this, that is attachment of nitrogens of the histidine, it also influences the reduction potential of this Fe plus 3 plus 2 couple. Okay, and the potential of the, or because of attachment, that is because of this alteration, the reduction potential is varied. That is, the range is from plus 0.35 to minus 0.15. And the number of labile sulfur sites, that is the inorganic sulfur, they remain the same like that of the previous one, unchanged in this protein, that is risky center. Next is 4Fe4S or 4Fe ferredoxin. As you can see, there is 4 Fe centers here and it has a cubic structure, and alternate corners of the cube are occupied by iron and sulfur. So you can see one Fe, sulfur, iron, sulfur, iron, sulfur, iron, sulfur. So alternate corners of the cube, you can see iron atom and sulfur atom. So it consists of 4 iron cations and 4 labile sulfurs. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 sulfurs and 4 ions which form the part of the cube. And each ion center, it is coordinated with 3 labile sulfur and 1 cysteine sulfur. You can see 1 cysteine sulfur is attached to each of the ion atom here. And this distorted cube, it is a distorted cube as the size of sulfur and iron atoms are different. So it is does not exactly exist in cubic form because the atomic size vary. So it exists as a distorted cube. And this also acts as a single electron transfer protein, and iron is present in both +2 as well as +3 oxidation state. So in oxidized form, you have 2 ions that are present in +3 and 2 ions that are present in +2 oxidation state, whereas in reduced form you have 3 ions that are present in +2 oxidation state and only 1 ion in +3 oxidation state. And the oxidized form, it is diamagnetic. The reason is due to anti-ferromagnetic coupling interaction, while the reduced form, it is paramagnetic in nature. So next is 3Fe4S ferredoxin. Here what happens is the same structure as we studied previously, but there is one iron atom that is missing. So Fe3S4 cluster protein can be considered as the previous one, that is Fe4S4 cubene type of cluster, where one Fe center is missing. That is, because of the missing one iron center, it can be considered as a distorted cube. Previously, it was a little proper cubic structure because there were 4 Fe atoms as well as 4 sulfur atom. Because here there is one Fe that is missing, it has a structure like this. Hence, it is described as a void cubane. That is, it is missing one Fe atom. So, it is called as a void cubane or Fe depleted cubane. And on the addition of an extra Fe or any other metal atom, the vacant corner of this cube is filled and that cubic structure is retained. That is, it gets back its cubic structure. Otherwise, see, one center where one iron was supposed to be there, that is missing. So it is like a distorted cube, an open cubic structure. And the last one is 8Fe8S ferredoxin. This is also like the 4Fe4S one, where two 4Fe4S clusters, they are joined together by protein chain. So these clusters, they consist of two Fe4S4 clusters, and these two, they are separated by around 12 Armstrong, and each Fe4S4 cluster, it acts as one electron transfer protein. So you studied that one Fe4S4 cluster, it can transfer one electron. Since we have two of them here, so this does one electron transfer, this does one electron transfer. So 1 plus 1, they act as two electron carriers. And these two, they are linked by protein chain, and the cysteine residue at the position, that is 8, 11, 14 and 45, and 4 labile sulfur, they are coordinated to the Fe sites of the 1 cubane. So you can see 1 cubane is connected to the cysteine sulfur as well as it is connected to 4 labile sulfurs. And also at the position 18, 35, 38 and 42 and 4 labile sulfur, they are coordinated to another ion center, and you can see both of these cubes, they are linked through a protein chain. So with this, there's one more electron transfer protein, which are cytochromes, which we'll be discussing in the next video. So I'll be ending this video here. Hope you have understood whatever I have explained so far. So keep practicing. All the best, students. Take care. Bye.